Hello everyone and good morning. Welcome to our webinar broadcast today. Today we are going to hear about payroll support, tax and regulatory updates with our presenter Lori Knapp from Innovia. And we just have a few housekeeping duties today to tell you. First, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box and we will get them called out and answered for you. Secondly, we do record this and all of our webinars. If you want to view the recording or have someone else view in your organization to see it, you can find it later this afternoon at innovia.com. Please, without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Lori, and she's going to start the webinar.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to have a great time today making payroll fun again. Let me see. Okay. So first of all, like the announcer said, I would like to talk about how we do our support for payroll, the different types of support there is, and then also touch upon the different types of updates, being the payroll tax updates and what we call regulatory updates. So we'll talk about the differences in those and then the process for how each of those work. Okay. The biggest thing to remember is we are here to help you, but the one thing I want to remind everybody is everything you can do to help us will make our jobs much more effective in helping you and get you your answers and get you out of trouble as quickly as we can. Okay. Helping you effectively, that's obviously going to save you money, get your tickets answered quicker, and hopefully make our experience together with support a lot more friendly and just a better experience overall. So we're going to go ahead and start off a little bit. I want to give you a little bit of background about myself. I am a senior application consultant with Innovia. I've been with Innovia for almost 6 years. However, I've been working with NAV since 1997. I initially started working with Navision Software US before it was part of Microsoft. It was still just a standalone company based out of Denmark, and so I worked for the U.S. Headquarters. If you ever need to reach me, you can reach me directly at my email address, or that is my direct phone number as well. Okay, when payroll goes down or you're having an issue with getting payroll out the door, that is usually not a good day. So let's see what we can do to make that a little bit more pleasant, to help you get payroll working, and maybe you'll go 100 days without a paycheck error. Okay. First of all, there's several ways that you can go ahead and get support from us. You can always email directly to support@innovia.com. If you're on the website, you can go to the support tab, and that also gives you an address where you can submit a ticket. For emergency situations, there's the 800 number, and please call because that's your most direct route if you really need something done immediately. So please keep that in mind. People that answer will get you to the correct consultant. And then we are also in the process of bringing up a support portal, which would link directly into the system where we log and work with the support tickets that are generated. If you have an interest in signing up for that, you can email Desiree Jaguar. She is our team lead, and she can help get you rolling on that piece of it. Okay. payroll's not magic. I mean, as you all know, there's a lot of different pieces, a lot of different moving pieces, and if you get everything set up and meshed together correctly, payroll really is not, it's just not a big deal. Especially in NAV, once you have everything set up, all you're doing is making sure you get correct, hours sent in, and if the hours are correct and all your other setups are correct, then it kind of is like magic. Okay, the typical payroll support issues that we have, we categorize them into two different broad categories: break fix or mods or new functionality requests. Break fix is something that stops your processing. It was working yesterday, it's not working today, or something happens, maybe you've added a new pay control or a new tax or a new employee that you didn't get set up correctly. At any rate, it stops your calculating payroll, or you can't print checks, you can't do a direct deposit. So those are kind of like the typical break fix issues that crop up with payroll. And if you have one of those and you're trying to get payroll out the door, please just give us a call, and whoever answers the phone will get your call routed appropriately, and we'll get it taken care of and get you rolling again. The other category is where you're going to be doing some sort of a modification, or maybe you have some new functionality you need, or something like that. Typically, it doesn't cause your payroll processing to stop. This is more like a planned type of thing that you want to do. You're maybe adding some fields to tables, pages, maybe reports. Maybe you want to create a new report. The ones that are there just aren't providing you the information in the manner that you need to see it. Or maybe there is one, but you just need to modify it slightly to make it more meaningful to you. New payroll controls. All of those are kind of like fall into this second bucket. And typically they're not critical. They're not, payroll's down, I got to move forward. So those ones, those can be generally submitted through a payroll request, or a support request, through the email address or through the support portal. However, you're always welcome to call us too, and we'll just generate the support ticket and go forward on that in that way. Okay, two things I want to show you, because in addition to getting support from us, when you are processing payroll, there are two features that I see that are not being used very often by people. And obviously, if we can help you learn to use the system more effectively, and you can learn to solve your problems on your own, it's going to be quicker for you, it's going to save you money, and you're going to become an expert. Okay, so the first thing, when you're calculating payroll in your payroll journal, every time that you run calculate payroll, this calculation errors page is available for you to look at. You can always, once you've calculated payroll, you just click on calculation errors, and it takes you to a page, and it will list any warnings or actually any errors that have occurred during that particular calculation. Sometimes, like the ones that we can see here, they're just warnings. It's just telling you that earnings regular was not calculated. Perhaps you overrode the system. And so that, if you see that warning and that you made that change, it's really just, an informational thing to you. However, if there is a problem, an error, and maybe payroll won't process, you will also see that it shows an error type of error, and it will give you some kind of a description. Hopefully the description is meaningful enough to allow you to go back and make the correction and then move forward. However, if you can't interpret the error message, please just take a screenshot of it, write it down word for word, anything that you can do like that to include in a support request to us is also going to be helpful to me. So that's the first place that I would like to bring to your attention on what you can do to help yourself. The second one, this is, I would say, a more an even more unknown feature that is available to you. For new users, it might be a little difficult to interpret the information that you can see, but for those of you that are experienced with running payroll in NAV, I find this can be, a real big help. It is called Payrollcalc Trace. So that's the name of the feature. There's a couple things you must do to set it up. The first place that you need to go is on the user setup page, and you find your ID, or have your system person, whoever manages this, go into here, find your ID, and as you can see towards the right of the page, there is a field that needs to be checked, allow Payrollcalc Trace. And it's as simple as putting a check mark in that field, and then you will have the availability to use this feature. Okay. When you go to run payroll, then, when you go to calculate your payroll, whether it's calculate single employee or you're calculating for all employees, on your selection page, your setup page here, at the bottom you see there's a new area added called Calculation Trace. If you want to turn that on for this particular pay calculation, you put a check mark in the Enable Calc Trace checkbox, and then in the Payroll Control Code filter, you can select a specific pay control, or by using the pipe symbol, you can select multiple payroll controls. A lot of times if you have a new pay control and you want to verify that it's calculating correctly, or even if you've done a calculation and something, a pay control looks like it's not providing the correct answer, you can go back and recalculate and turn this on, and then you're going to be able to determine the type of information that you need to see. So once you run your payroll, calculate, then if you go up to your ribbon on the Actions tab, typically, you will see the option View Trace, and if you select that, then you're going to get the page that I've shown below. And again, it takes you through, we're looking just at the 401k employee percentage pay control. And what you see here is all the pieces and parts of what it takes to calculate that particular pay control. As I said, if you're not very familiar with NAV payroll, this might be a little daunting to you, but if you've worked with NAV payroll and you understand about the different brackets and payroll rates, those kind of things that are used, then this can be very helpful. Like I said, it's just a step-by-step. If you were to go to the payroll calculation control and opened up the method steps for it, you would see the first one here is probably add base amount, and we're actually saying that the base amount on this one is all earnings and bonus, and so it shows that amount as the 102.31. And then if you come down to the next line, I believe it's taxable times employee rate, and so it needs a rate code. So you can see over there to the right, it shows that you have the 401k rate. It's going to be a percentage, and you can see that it calculates out to the 6.13. The same thing then it does on the last line is do the year-to-date limit check, which, on the pay control you have the limit established, which, actually comes from the government every year. That changes a little bit, it seems. And so it does the test on the annual basis of it. And if you're within that limit, then it doesn't change the payroll amount. If the earnings were over the certain limit, then it would cap what could be deducted. So if you want to learn, if you need help interpreting that, I'm more than happy to help you do that. Again, if you know you're having a problem with a particular payroll control, it's best to turn this on, try to take a screenshot of it, because it just saves time if I have this stuff to look at initially with you. And it just makes trying to solve some of these things a little bit easier. I can tell you that when I'm creating new pay controls, I use this all the time, simply because I want to know exactly what amounts are being calculated each step, so that if it starts to go haywire in step 2, I'm not trying to figure out, okay, where is this not calculating correctly? I can turn this on and I can see that I'm not getting the expected results that I need based on the input that I know I have. Okay, so those are the two, pieces of self-help that I wanted to bring up to you. Now if we talk about the traditional support, which is the submitting of support tickets, okay? Again, please review what you can, use the 2 tools I just showed you, gather any and all information that is pertinent to what the problem is that you're having. It may not seem important to you, but sometimes it's those little unknown things that turn out to be the piece that we need to solve the problem. So don't get frustrated. I know you get frustrated when you're doing payroll and you're under a deadline, but really we are here to help you, and we'll do that as quickly as we can. So when you have a payroll a payroll support request, when you want to get in touch with us, here's the things that will be most helpful to us. Again, if it's a break fix, if you need to get your payroll out by the end of the day, you need to call us. Otherwise, if it comes in email, even though we're constantly checking our support boards, if it's 45 minutes from the time that you submitted it till the next time we look at it, that's 45 minutes that are lost. So if it's an emergency, you are best to give us a call. If the due date, if it's not today, then let us know. If you're doing your payroll a couple days early and you have a couple days cushion, great. Please let us know. That takes some of the pressure off of us as well. Everybody knows, it's difficult to work when you're under pressure, and that goes just as much for us as it does for you. The things that you can provide to us that's going to make it much easier for us to help you. Who is the main person we need to contact? Some companies we work with, they have one person that they route all issues through that particular person. That particular person, however, may not be the best person to contact if we need more information or if we have to work with something specific to the issue or that particular user. So even if you're the one routing the support request in, please let us know who is the main contact for the support issue, and then all their contact information, email address, obviously, and the direct phone number if you have one. Also, we'd like to know what you have done already at this point. What troubleshooting steps have you taken? Have you gone through and used the 2 tools, the Payrollcalc trace, the payroll errors? If you have, did you take screenshots of those? If it's not pertinent to using those 2 things, do you have screenshots of the problem or of the error messages? Is this problem something new? Is it limited to just one employee? Perhaps a new employee that's not set up correctly and you don't know what you're missing? Or is it a new pay control that doesn't seem to be working properly? Can you replicate it? If it's something that, that's not critical, that you have time to work with, have you gone to your test database and tried to replicate it? Is it impacting anybody else other than you? Any examples you can provide are always good. If it's some sort of a calculation that you don't think seems to be working properly, what should the results be? In your mind, what should the actual calculation be? And then the last piece of it, is this related to Green Shades or NAV? Green Shades is the third-party provider that does all the 941, 940 reporting and W-2s at the end of the year, while all the payroll processing, obviously, and most reporting is going to go through NAV. So when you get to the end of the year, it's important to specify if you think it's, you know, a Green Shades issue or a NAV issue, because we're dealing with two, you know, totally different software entities that we have to deal with. And yeah, the information from NAV goes up to Green Shades, but, you know, Green Shades obviously works differently and separately from NAV once it has the data. Okay. Couple things to keep in mind. When you can't replicate the error, or if we can't replicate it, inherently that becomes a more time-consuming task. We have got to be able to, you know, recreate the problem if we're going to be able to troubleshoot it and figure out what is happening. If it's a sporadic thing, obviously it's going to be more difficult to track down. So in those instances, again, all the information that you can provide is going to be paramount to helping us determine and figure out what the problem is. For that reason, we always like to tell our payroll customers, it's really important to keep your test database in sync with your live database. You know, and in payroll, I guess that makes a little bit more work to some extent. Not necessarily with employees, you have to keep it up to date, but if you can, that's even better. But I'm talking more like payroll tax updates, regulatory updates, because obviously we don't want to be trying to recreate a problem in your live database, because that's the only place you know that it happens. You know, we don't want to disturb normal processing if we don't have to. So it's really important if you're running payroll to keep, you know, keep your test database in sync with your live database. And, you know, really the easiest way to do that is to have some kind of backup procedure that, you know, regularly, maybe once a month, backs up your live database and then restores it into your test database. You should be doing backups anyway, so it's really just one more step to reload that into your test database, and then you actually have a good working copy. Again, if you don't think something's working correctly for a calculation, give us what you know, how it should work, what the desired result should be. If there's any tricky calculations, if something doesn't seem to be working, and maybe it's not been working for a while, are there any patterns of data that seems to be incorrect? Again, is it sporadic? Did it just start, or has it been ongoing? And of course, the one thing we're always going to ask is, okay, if it was working last week and it's not working this week, something's changed. So what has changed? Sometimes it's an intentional change, sometimes it's not. So if you know of something that has changed, then please let us know, because that'll also help us go to the next level and figure out what's going on. Okay, if we talk about the second category of support requests that we, you know, briefly discussed earlier, okay, the most important thing is, how soon is it required? Payroll typically has tighter deadlines for just about anything, whether it's break fix or additional functionality. So we need to know, you know, what the due date, the drop dead date is, so that we can make sure that we devote the resources to get it completed, have time to test it, have time to go through it with you, have time for you to test it. So it's very important that we know. Likewise, please give us as much time up front that we can have, because obviously we don't just work with one customer. You know, we've got, I don't know how many customers at this point, but in support, you know, it's not uncommon to be working on 20 to 30 different customers' requests. So in order to do everything, yeah, we have some kind of priority system, but the more upfront time we have, then the more you can be assured that we're going to meet your deadline. Okay. Again, don't assume that we know and that we can fill in the blanks when you're talking about something new that you might have. The more specific you can be with your requirements, including pictures, examples, sketches, spreadsheets, whatever you can use to get the point across, the better off everybody's going to be. That's going to allow us to create a much better an informative design doc for the developer. It's going to give us, you know, a better plan on how we have to design whatever it is that you would like to do. So even if it's, you know, let's say you want a modification on a report, print out, you know, and it's an existing one. Print out the existing report, take a pen, make your marks on it, cross this out, point an arrow, I want this field here, I want this there. You know, scan it and send it to us. Pictures are truly sometimes worth 1,000 words in getting your point across to us on what you need, you know, what you need to have done. Just please don't assume that we can say, oh, she says this, she must really mean she wants this, because we don't always make good guesses. So if you don't want us to guess, then please let us know. If you need a new pay control, is it, you know, does it apply to all employees or a particular group of employees, or even maybe just an individual employee? Garnishments, you know, they're typically very individualized, have a lot of different requirements based on whatever court they come from. So, you know, be as specific as you can, because again, once we get to the testing phase, we want to be able to test it on the appropriate employees if it's, you know, dependent on a specific group or an individual employee. Are there any special calculations? Are there specific rates that are involved? Are there any tax implications? You know, is it a new deduction? Is it pre-tax or is it after tax? Are there any specific rules? Maybe, you know, garnishments are famous for having net pay testing to ensure that the employee has enough net pay left. So different things like that. All those things, you know, the more detailed of requirements you can give me, the better luck I'm going to have creating what you need. If you're looking for a new report, first of all, are there any existing reports that might work with minor changes? I guarantee you that it's probably going to be less expensive to take an existing report and just tweak it to make it more, you know, what you need. I think payroll reporting is fairly flexible. First of all, there are, you know, a large number of reports, and then with all the filtering and sorting you can do on your report selections, you generally can get what you need. And not, you know, not only that, now you have the ability to create your own payroll account schedules. Most of you, if not all of you, should have one that you use at the end of quarters to verify all your earnings and to use when you're doing your regulatory reporting. If you don't, please let me know. I will help you get that set up. And again, because you have the payroll account schedules, you know, it's just like the financial account schedules. You have some flexibility to create some relatively simple reports, but getting the information that you need. So, you know, if you're trying to do one of those and you need help, let me know. I'd be glad to help you with that. And just like payroll controls, make sure that we have all the information we need to create the report or make the changes that you need. Don't assume that we know all the details or that we can have some sort of mental telepathy skills to pull it out of your head. And like we tell everybody on all of our support requests, we need time up front to do the analysis and generation, the creation of the design document. I've got to be able to look at the system, make sure that what I'm thinking as far as what the design should be, whether it's new functionality or a change to a report, a pay control. I need to look at that and make sure that I'm setting it up in the most efficient way to work with NAV and also to generate the information you need. So, when you call in, we're going to have a little bit of upfront time to make sure that we get everything set up correctly to ensure that if it's a developer that's going to work on it, he's got what he needs, that he can efficiently go in there, do the coding, and we're ready to get it into testing. Same thing if I'm helping you with a pay control. The more information I have up front, and if I have all the rules and regulations that go along with it, it goes much smoother. Okay? And on everything, like if we're doing any kind of functionality changes or reporting changes, and the same really with pay controls. We do testing. We have a development system that approximates your live system. We do update them occasionally, but not as frequently as what I would like to see you do from your live to your test. If we get something that is really critical, we will get a backup and then restore it in our development environment so that we can do our diagnostics there too. So we do testing, but once we know that the basics and it's working, we give it to you, and we, kind of rely on you to do the really, down and dirty testing, because your system, your employees, the payroll situations you come up with. So we do look to you to work hand in hand with us on the testing. And, the one thing that I want to stress is, when you're working with deadlines and we turn something over to you and we say, okay, it's ready for you to test, we need you to try to be diligent and get that testing done as quickly as possible, so that if there's more work that needs to be done, or if something's just not working, it has time to come back and, go through the process of review and working with a developer to get it to where it will work. And especially if you're on a tight deadline, we need you to be a part of that and to help keep that whole support cycle moving. Because if you don't get your testing done, it just slows down the whole effort. So just the one thing, I do want to bring up is that any work we put in on the front end, whether it be analysis or design work, that's what actually provides a good solid base for everything else we're going to do involved with that particular support request. So even though there might be some time and effort spent on the front end, it should yield better results on the back end. Okay, we will go ahead and move into talk about payroll tax updates and regulatory updates. First of all, I'll just kind of go through the differences in each of those, and then after we talk about what they are and what the differences are, we will talk a little bit about what the process is for getting these out to you. Okay, payroll tax updates, they are just what they are, payroll tax updates. So, throughout the year, any kind of, taxing authorities, whether it be a local, city, state, federal, they all could come up with updated tax rates. So given that, and you've got so different many entities, they're basically released periodically throughout the year. Typically, they're around quarter ends, so that, if something is starting on July 1, sometime in June, we might get notification that there are some payroll tax updates that are available. Okay, they typically contain changes to brackets, maybe calculations, rates. Typically, it's the brackets, rates sometimes. Calculations don't change often, but once in a great while they do. Those are the primary ones. Usually the first one that we get for a calendar year is going to be released sometime in late December. That typically, federal tax brackets usually change without fail on January 1st. So we will get notification. Those will come out, maybe new Social Security limits, new 401k limits. You might have a change to the federal unemployment change in the base amount. So all those federal ones, they typically come out first. The states, they tend to dribble in. Even if they're supposed to be active January 1st, I've seen them not come out until the latter part of January. Serenic, or Kennick, I should say at this point, as soon as they get notification, they package them up and let us know. So, if they don't have them, they can't disperse them. But, they know that, the end of the year is probably their busiest time. They've got, they've usually got it staffed very well, and they, are very good about notifying us. So just to let you know, we start numbering those as we get them. Like the first one for the first year is going to be Payroll Tax Update. Usually I number it V1 for version 1. And then every one throughout the year is subsequent with that year number. If you've worked with NAV, you might be okay installing these yourself. Once you are experienced with NAV, they aren't difficult to install as long as you know what you're doing. So if you're not, though, then I would really recommend you having us put them in for you. We typically will ask you what states or any localities that are specific to you, so that we make sure we get everything. And the other part of that is, if you want to have somebody trained, we're more than happy to do that. Okay. When Kennick puts out their payroll tax updates, there's always a PDF document that goes through and lists all the changes out by, really by tax authority, because you'll see all the federal ones, that are related. You'll see state ones, state unemployment, federal unemployment if it's there, Social Security, Medicare. The one thing to keep in mind, that PDF file is cumulative throughout the year. They don't publish a new PDF every time they do a tax release. They just append that initial one. So, they do let us know what is new in each version, and when we get into the process, I'll tell you how I work with that. So just important to keep in mind that the PDF also has things that may not even apply to you, because it lists everything for all states. So, if you only do business in Wisconsin, then you're not going to care about any tax updates for New York or Ohio or Pennsylvania. So just be aware that that's like that. Regulatory updates. Okay, those usually coincide with any changes for W-2s, 940s, 941s, and more recently, obviously, is the ACA reporting that, that reporting requirement that just began. Those usually also can impact green shades, or there may even be specific green shades updates that are also packaged in that particular update. I've also seen updates where there are other fixes that maybe something was discovered and they've packaged the fix in with the regulatory update. So just keep that in mind. It's, typically related to all that reporting, but can include other pieces of it. Regulatory updates are important, and they are also listed by version. They're actually by build number, and then each build has, a certain number series where it's, if you get 4 of these in the year, you'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of those have to be installed. Typically, they have to be installed sequentially, and if you skip any, then you're likely to run into trouble, and then, you've got to back everything out and basically restart. So unless you have, a really familiar, an IT person that understands this whole process, we highly, highly recommend that you have us do the installation of these, and then we just work with you to have you help test. Might tell you what the changes are. Here's what you need to test for. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the difference between the tax and the regulatory updates. There's also a difference in how these are rolled out. The payroll tax updates, those are always, they're published on the Saronic website. As soon as I hear about them, or even if I just go out there to check, if I see that there's new ones out there, then I download them, and the first thing I do is write out a generic email to all of our payroll customers, letting them know that this payroll tax update is available. And I typically, not so much on the first ones, but on the secondary and the others throughout the year, I will try to let you know what has changed so that you know if it pertains to you or not. If there is a lot of state or other locality information on the initial one at year end, then I also put that in there just to make sure that people know that it's out there. When I send you that initial email, I give you the option of, hey, do you want to install this, or do you want us to do it? If you want to do it, then I send you out the PDF document so that you can enter in the updates manually. Or if you're not going to do them, then you just let me know, and I schedule a time with you when I will put those in. When you put them in, I, again, strongly recommend that you update your test database and then put them in your live database. Some people I know like to put them in their test database, run a quick test, and then put them in their live database. When I do it for you, I put them in our dev database, run a test, then I will put them in your into your test database, and if it's, similar to what we have in dev, I don't necessarily do testing, but if I know if there's a big discrepancy in between those two, then I typically will do a little bit of testing in your test database as well, and then put it into live and let you know. If you have a different process you want us to follow, let's talk about it. It doesn't have to, it's not written in stone. It's just kind of what we recommend. But it also, again, just like I said before, it's important to keep your test database in sync with your live database. It just makes life much easier for you if you do run into problems. Okay, so the regulatory updates. Just from what I told you on the past slide about the regulatory updates being updates to, the W-2s, 941s, might impact green shades, might impact NAV, it might impact both. There might be fixes in there. So, obviously those are going to be more time consuming. A lot of times they are required for year-end payroll processing. So that puts, some added pressure on getting those scheduled and getting them put in. They're always published and out on the Serenic payroll website. So I download those as well when I'm checking on my payroll tax updates. Again, I would send out email notifications very similar to what I do for the payroll tax updates. Sometimes at the end of the year, it's one email saying that I've got both. Here's what's impacted. What do you need from us? Okay. Regulatory updates are different in the installation of them in the fact that they're probably coded. In other words, there's probably changes to actual code behind the scenes rather than just going into tables and updating brackets or rates or what have you with a payroll tax update. So if you don't have a qualified developer on your staff, then you need to make sure that you get that scheduled with us for deployment and as quickly as possible, because we have multiple customers we have to take care of at the end of the year. So that's how we like to handle those. Ways that you can help your company save money on payroll support. Again, use the tools that are in there, especially the payroll errors page when you're calculating payroll, or the payroll calculation trace. Again, those, whether you can use them or you're using them to gather information for payroll support, that will save you time and money. Any details you can provide, right? So whatever information you can get to us with your initial request starts that whole process off on a much better footing than if we have to call you and start trying to pick your brain, and maybe we get 95% of the information we need, but it's really that last 5% that if you had given us this, it would have made all the difference in the world. So everything you can give us helps. Preventing tickets from stalling. Again, that kind of goes back to when we come to you and ask you to do testing, try not to let it sit there for weeks. I know that everybody's busy and sometimes you can't do it at that minute, but please try to get it done as quickly as possible, especially if we find errors and we have to do some more rework on it. We don't want to let tickets out there stagnant. Our goal is to take a ticket, get it worked, get it approved by you, get it into live, and boom, we're done with it. So that's what we would like to do there. Again, I gave you the modes or the methods for reaching out to support, either the website, direct emails, phone calls. Try not to do direct reach outs to resources. I know people like to call me directly, and that's great if I'm here or if I'm not in a meeting or I'm not on vacation. But if you send me an email directly and I happen to be out of the office that week, your request is going to sit there all week till I get back. So if you do that, that's a risk that you're going to take. Especially if you need help quickly. If you need help quickly, call us. You're going to get to the right person. So just keep that in mind, please. And then the last piece is when we ask you to test, do some realistic testing. Like I said, we do basic testing, so we know that it should work, but you're the ones that know your business, know your employees. Again, you know the types of payroll situations you have. Put it through some real testing to make sure that we haven't just inadvertently overlooked a piece of a calculation or specific requirement. Okay. And as always, any suggestions, comments, criticism, it doesn't matter. We like hearing from you. We want to make our support experience as good as we can with you. So if you've got suggestions that you think would help that, or even criticisms where you weren't helped in the manner maybe that you thought you should be, you know, please let us know. We want to make things better for you and as good as they can be. So please, you know, take the time and do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and recap, and then I think after this we will do a Q&A. Again, our goal is to help your company save money. I know it costs money to come to us for support, but if we can solve a problem and get you on your feet and working quicker, take care of a problem so you're not sitting there scratching your head for half a day, that is going to save you money. That's why we do what we do. Do the things that help us keep a quicker turnaround on tickets, providing the information that we need up front, keeping the tickets moving, the thorough testing. All those things really do make a difference in how well a support ticket can go through the system. You know, keep in mind you've got the different ways you can submit support tickets. And again, I just keep saying, if you've got an emergency, call. That's the way you're going to get the quickest help. Realize that with the different ticket types, you know, let us know. If it's an urgent one that you did submit via email, then let us know. If you've got payroll pending on a fix, then we need to know so that we can, you know, whoever's going to work on it can drop everything and help get you where you need to be and meet your deadline. And remember the details. Any details will help, but the more you can give us, the better off you're going to be. And hopefully then all those things combined are going to help you realize some savings to the cost of getting payroll support. Okay, let's open it up and take some questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions I can.
Well, Lori, it doesn't look like we have any questions available, but I want to thank you for the presentation. Remember, this webinar will be available on our website later this afternoon for you to view again or share with other coworkers or colleagues. Thank you all for attending. Keep an eye out on our website for future webinars, and we look forward for you attending our next webinar. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.